Hi, good afternoon, and thank you so much for being with us here today for the Making a House Your Home webinar. My name is Gina Campanella. I am the principal of Campanella Law Office, and I have here with me today Francesca Anello, who is a sales manager with Advisors Mortgage Group, and Marcia Nathanson with First American Title. The three of us work very closely together in several realtor organizations, and we felt particularly now it was very important to put information out there about what your expectations should be from the individuals other than your realtor who you will be seeking services from if you're choosing to, say, buy your first home, buy an investment property, buy a vacation home, or even move. Perhaps with things that have changed with current circumstances, you're looking to move. So Francesca and Marcia and I felt this was a particularly important time to put this information out there, and each one of us is going to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about ourselves, what we do, what your expectations should be when you're shopping for the services that each one of us provides, and then we will have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. You'll see there is a question box. Please type any questions you may have in that question box. If your question is for a particular presenter, just put that presenter's first name at the beginning of your question, and we'll make sure that we answer them. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but you all will be provided with our contact information if we do run out of time. All three of us, and I can very confidently speak on behalf of all three of us, are very happy to have anyone contact us afterwards with any questions you may have. So like I said, this afternoon, it's really for anyone looking to purchase a new home. I am your representation from the legal end, Francesca from financing, Marcia from title, and we thought we would kind of go in chronological order of what you would need to do if you're starting the process. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Francesca and let her talk a little bit more about the importance of pre-approval and determining what your buying power is. Francesca?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Francesca Anello. I work with Advisors Mortgage Group. I got a little feedback here, sorry. So what is your first step? Congratulations, you're taking the first step. It's learning about what you are going to do, how to do it, when to do it. The very first step should always be to figure out your purchasing power. And that starts with a very simple phone call where I would be asking you a lot of financial questions, all of which you typically would know off the top of your head. Your name, your address, your social security number, date of birth, where you've been working for the past 2 years. But that information, I then run credit, run some numbers, and we have a follow-up conversation or meeting to discuss your purchasing power and what it means to buy a $250,000 house or a $450,000 house or $650,000 or $1 million. What is it? What is the difference in the monthly payment? And which monthly payment do you feel most comfortable with? So when in doing this, we not only see, okay, well, what can I qualify? How much of a house can I buy? I also make sure that that fits into your current financial budget. Can you afford to do that? It's not just a matter of, will the bank give you that loan? It's a matter of, can I afford to make that monthly payment? Okay. That is the very beginning. That's a pre-qualification. I like to take it a step further and get you pre-approved. The difference is that I am now reviewing your documents. The documents that you typically need are 1 month's worth of pay stubs. So if you're paid every 2 weeks, it's 3 pay stubs every week, 5 pay stubs. You want to cover that full 30 days. 2 years tax returns and W-2s or 1099s, and your assets to kind of review how much you have for a down payment and closing costs. Now, if you have your entire life savings that you want to put into the house, we'll have that conversation. Just because you have $100,000 doesn't mean that you want to put that entire amount into the house. You may want to, you definitely want to leave something for reserves, okay? And that could be in the form of an IRA or a 401k, and those are all conversations that we have together and cater to your needs, your specific needs. It's never a one size fits all. And gathering that information, then you know what you can afford, the price range, the monthly payment, and then you can start shopping for a house. That's when you say, okay, well, how do I do that? We'll put you in touch with a realtor in your area, one that is specific to where you're looking, that is an expert in that area. Once you have that, let's say, contract, you put a contract in, you go back to your attorney and say, okay, I have a contract. And they begin the attorney review process. Gina will talk about that. I will just kind of fill in when that part, while she's doing that, we're still moving forward to make sure that you are going to be able to get your mortgage. We've already been pre-approved, right? Now we need to make sure you get a mortgage commitment. A commitment means that the bank, that we as lenders are committed to lending you the money as long as you continue to meet the qualifications outlined. And then there will be definitely a list of documents that we need. Yes, I've collected documents. We collect documents in the beginning of the process, during the process, and sometimes even after you close. We are always asking for documents. But one thing I will promise you is I will tell you why we need those documents. We often ask for updated bank statements. So even if we're prepared in the beginning before you even find a house, things change. You'll have a new pay stub and new bank statements and different things along, throughout the process that we need to update. So that's kind of a nutshell. Any questions, please reach out to me. We will have some questions, during this and even at the end. There's a lot of information that is out there, and we're here to answer any questions. So thank you very much. Back to you, Gina.
Okay, thank you very much. So one of the things Francesca mentioned is at one point or another, you're going to be under contract and you're going to start the attorney review process. What I want to talk about a little bit is why it is important that you do have an attorney representing you in this process and what your expectations should be from your attorney. A lot of times we have, really it's a client sees a house, they like a house, that's the house they want to buy, and their realtor is their resource for a lot of referrals of who they're going to work with. I think that's wonderful. I have no problem with that. But what I will remind you is just keep in mind that it is up to you who you hire and who you work with from all angles. It is up to you which mortgage company you hire and work with. It is up to you which attorney you hire and work with. And it is up to you which title company you hire and work with. Even if your realtor has a title company they always work with, which most of them are fine, it is up to you to make those choices as a consumer. And that's just not always clear. As far as when you're selecting an attorney, my suggestion always is when you first start looking for the home, that's when you should also be starting to look for your attorney. The realtor you're working with, or someone like Francesca, mortgage company you're working with, friends and family, ask around, see who people have used in the area, and start making phone calls. Okay, start making phone calls to those attorneys, because not only do you want to work with someone who you have a good rapport with and you feel will be a good fit, will understand your family's specific concerns, but there's also pricing issues to consider. You want to make sure the pricing is appropriate, it's going to fit within your budget. So my suggestion always is pick 2 or 3 attorneys that you think look good, make the phone calls, have the introductory consultations with them, and have your attorney picked out before you have your house picked out. And why is that so important? Because the moment you have that contract signed, a 3 business day period begins to run. And something very important has to happen in that 3 business day period, and that is attorney review. Essentially, in the state of New Jersey, we have standardized contracts, real estate contracts for the purchase and sale of homes, and those contracts cannot be modified by your realtor. They must be used by your realtor, but they can be modified in the attorney review process. And most attorneys will modify the same 10 or 15 things in that contract, whether they represent buyer, whether they represent seller. So even if you feel that you don't have any major issues or things that needed to be changed in the contract, you need to allow your attorney the opportunity to have that full 3-day period to get a letter out and trigger that attorney review process. My personal policy with my clients is, especially if I'm representing the buyer, if you hire me, I will get that attorney review letter out within 24 business hours of getting that contract to trigger that process. Once attorney review is triggered, you have all the time you need to negotiate any kinds of changes or modifications to the contract among yourself, buyer, seller, and the other attorney. Okay, the really important thing is just that process is triggered as quickly as possible, and you're confident that your attorney is going to be responsive when things are being negotiated back and forth, and you're going to get the results in that negotiation you want. Then, once attorney review is concluded, everyone's agreed on these changes, then the real excitement starts. That's when you start with your inspections. You go back to Francesca, you make sure that she has all the documents that she needs, which I don't know if she'll ever have all the documents she needs, as you said. But any documents she needs, you get her the documents, you make sure you're getting your loan, your financing, and we would bring in someone like Marcia to start on your title. And I'm going to let Marcia talk about title. I'm not even going to touch that topic because Marcia's much more knowledgeable than I am, as that's her specialty. So attorney review expectations, one of the big things you're going to work with specifically with your attorney after that is your inspections. Okay, I have had clients come to me and say, well, I'm buying it as is, so I'm just going to skip the inspection. I don't recommend that, and I don't recommend that because even if the seller has already said, I am not fixing a thing, I don't care what you find in the inspection, you can still cancel that contract if you find something in the inspection that's going to make it not worthwhile for you to purchase that property. Okay, I want all of my clients to know exactly what they're buying, exactly what they're signing, exactly what they're getting at all times. And I get very, very nervous when clients don't want to bother getting an inspection just because a contract is quote unquote as is. You still have your rights to cancel the contract, even if you know seller is not going to fix anything. So inspections are very important. You want your attorney involved in the inspections, and you want your attorney to get that inspection report as soon as it's produced. And then your attorney will talk to you, maybe talk to the inspector, and put together a wish list of things you either want the seller to fix or address, or perhaps just give you a credit at closing to compensate you for the need to fix or address these problems. Okay, one of the expectations you want from your attorney when you're going through inspection and review of the inspection report is you do not want to be working with an attorney who is going to encourage you to put every single thing that is in that inspection report on a list. And here's why. It's just not reasonable. Okay, I have had people come back from inspection reports and say, the kitchen countertop is scratched, I want it replaced. The paint is old, I want the whole house repainted. The hardwood floors are scratched, I would like them refinished. These are, in my opinion, unreasonable inspection requests. These are things that you could see when you were in the home, they were apparent to you, no one was hiding them, they are cosmetic. What you want from an inspection report is you want to know, is there any termite damage? Is the foundation unstable? Are there water issues? Are any of the major appliances, HVAC, anything like that, at the end or past their useful life? Okay, all the things you can't see. Is the electrical system from 1802? Does the entire house need to be rewired? This is what you're looking for in an inspection. And you want to work with an attorney that's going to help you parse out what is worth going back and forth about and what is simply going to sour the deal. Okay, so some people think it's really important to have an attorney that's just going to argue over everything. And in some litigation matters, that may be the case. But in real estate, your expectation from your attorney is that they are helping you get the best deal. And by going after tiny little cosmetic things, they're not working in your best interest. Okay, and then the last thing I just want to take a few minutes and talk about is right now, obviously, we're in a very unique situation with the COVID-19 pandemic. This is my first day back in my office. As you can see, I'm in my conference room, and a lot of things have been different. But what I will say is what I am seeing from my end is that real estate is still happening. People are still selling, and there's inventory out there to buy. Transactions are still happening, and people like myself and Francesca and Marcia have all been able to accommodate very quickly to allow as many things as possible to happen remotely, and to protect our clients, but to make sure their deals go through. So don't be discouraged by what's going on. Real estate agents are still working. I am still working. Francesca is still working, and Marcia is still working. And there are definitely still really good investments and deals to be had out there. Now, one of the things I mentioned is when we get through attorney review and inspections, another very important element is title and title insurance. And as promised, I'm going to let Marcia talk to you guys about that, because Marcia would be the resource I would go to if I had questions. Go ahead, Marcia.
Thank you, Gina. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marcia Nathanson, and I'm Senior Vice President of Marketing for First American Title. I've been in the business for over 35 years and have been with First American for 34 years. First American traces its roots back to 1889. It's a long time, 131 years to be exact. So I think you would agree that we have some staying power. We're a Fortune 500 company with offices in every state in many other countries. So if you were looking to buy or refinance a property in another state, I can help you. I really need to stress how important it is to work with an experienced real estate attorney, a responsive lender, and a very strong title company. This is not a self-serving statement, because whether you pick Gina to represent you, Francesca to fund your mortgage, or me to insure your property, if you don't pick the right professionals, you will be very frustrated and disappointed with the process of buying a home. This is one of the most exciting and happy times of your life. I often give the example that if you had a heart problem, would you go to a doctor that specializes in feet? So when choosing an attorney, make sure he or she specializes in real estate and understands the process. Real estate is relatively fast moving, so you need an attorney who's responsive. As far as a lender, responsiveness is also key. Rate is not the begin all end all. You need to work with someone that explains the process and then answers your questions through every step of the process, just as Francesca had mentioned. Another important issue is the speed by which a lender processes everything and gets you to the closing table. If everything looks good with your application, you have provided the lender with what they need, it should be a relatively smooth process. A good loan officer keeps you informed, works with the underwriters, and gets it to the processing team to get your file closed as soon as possible. I say this because my team works with the attorneys and lenders very closely, and I can tell you that there is absolutely a difference between attorneys and lenders. The attorneys who do not handle real estate and the loan officers and banks or mortgage companies who are unresponsive are an absolute nightmare to work with. So I encourage you to ask questions of your attorney and lender about the process so you know what to expect. So where does the title company fit in the process? Buying a home is probably going to be the biggest expenditure you ever make. And I can tell you from my experience, title insurance is important. A lender will not give you a loan unless you buy title insurance. In New Jersey, the buyer pays for the title insurance policy for the lender. However, it is only $25 when issued simultaneously with an owner's policy. I encourage you, as I am certain Gina would agree, to get title insurance even if you are paying cash for your home. It can be very costly to you if you do not have it. So you're under contract, you've applied for a mortgage with Francesca, and Gina has reviewed your contract. You as the purchaser can pick the title company. As there are differences in attorneys and lenders, there are differences in title companies. You want to pick an experienced, reliable, and responsive title company as well. Gina and Francesca can tell you on their end that a title company that is none of those is a title company that will hold up your deal forever and make your experience a nightmare. So now that I have introduced myself to you, please feel free to contact me once you find a home. I can answer all your title questions and concerns as they relate to title. So you might ask, well, why do I need title insurance? So what we do is we ensure that any defect in the title to the land that you're purchasing has been called to your attention and corrected before your transaction closes. Should there be a claim made against your title as covered by your policy, it is then our obligation as your title provider to protect you. So you might ask, well, who's covered? Typically, there's two policies that are issued. The owner's policy, which insures the purchaser for the purchase price, and the lender's policy, which insures the lender for the amount of the loan. What is covered? Title insurance conducts an examination of the public records, looking for matters affecting the title to the real property. We look for prior mortgages, judgments, searches. We search the tax record. These items, if left unpaid, become liens on your home. This means you do not have clear title. So you might ask, well, what if I have a problem? Do I have to lose my property to make the claim? Should there be a claim made against your title as covered by your policy, it is our obligation to protect you by either defending your title in court if necessary at our expense, or bearing the cost of settling the claim if it proves to be valid. So what does this cost? Unlike the annual premiums of most other forms of insurance, you pay a one-time premium for title insurance. The owner's policy provides you coverage for the entire time you own your home. When you sell your property and the deed is transferred, your owner's coverage ceases to exist. So when Gina gets the contract for title, typically after the inspections, she will send over the order for title on your behalf. We search the county records and order ancillary searches, and once these reports come in, we prepare a commitment to insure. We send a copy to the buyer's attorney, the seller's attorney, and the lender. The attorneys and title company work together to provide documentation needed to satisfy outstanding items which may affect the title and get the file together so it can close. What we do issue a closing disclosure, or a CD, is prepared and sent to the buyers 3 days prior to the closing being scheduled. So you get to look at everything 3 days prior to closing. This is your opportunity to look over everything before closing. If you have questions, you can reach out to Gina, Francesca, or myself. And now, the best thing that anyone ever hears is, now we're clear to close. So what happens next? Once the file's clear to close, Gina or First American will contact you to let you know what you will need for closing. In addition, a date will be set for closing. The closing is typically done at the buyer's office, but you are always free to close at one of First American's 4 offices around the state. One of the costs that the buyer incurs is called a settlement fee. This cost covers First American's time to work with the lender to clear the file, attend the closing, go over the documents you will need to sign, make sure all the outstanding balances from the seller are paid, record the documents, and issue a final title policy. As Gina mentioned, I just wanted to say that it's important to mention the COVID situation and it's influenced title companies. At this moment, First American has kept our East Windsor office open for business. We have a small staff working there every day, and we have conducted closings in our conference room. Typically, the buyer's attorney, the buyers, and our closer are the only ones in the closing room. Our conference room is big enough to social distance and is sanitized regularly. No pens are used twice, and we are very careful to implement safe measures for your health. The buyer's attorneys are also conducting closings in their offices with these same measures in place. In conclusion, I have educational material in all languages to help buyers navigate through the process. And so please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Marcia. And Francesca, I'm actually going to switch back to you because we have our first set of questions. There's one for you and one for me. So I'm going to go to yours first. And the question is, Are we in a buyer's market? And are there grants available right now to assist first-time buyers?
So there are many grants available in different counties and as well as statewide, and that is something that I would speak to you one-on-one, very lengthy. There's just so much information that we could be on this call for 24 hours. So yes, there are grants available, and at Advisors we offer most of them that are out there. So whenever I pre-approve somebody, I'm constantly looking to see if they would fit into any one of the grants that are available. Even if you don't ask me, I'm still going to look at it. I wanted to add something about COVID. So that has changed the way we're doing business just a little bit. I like to meet with my buyers in person, but that's been difficult. So we've been organizing meetings such as this one and Zoom meetings, so we can kind of see face to face and have a conversation, not just a telephone conversation, but it's semi in person. And that also enables me to share my screen and show numbers to them and show you what the differences are. So it has been a you know, I'm gonna say an obstacle that I feel like we've overcome. And I also wanted to mention something about appraisals. So we sometimes confuse appraisals and inspections. So an appraiser will go and inspect the property, but it's not an inspection the way the inspector does. Appraisers are looking for kind of high level, making sure that they're like the windows are not boarded up, and something that you would kind of see when you walked in, holes in the wall. They make sure that, you know, there's a full kitchen, that the bathroom, that nothing's missing. There are houses available that may have boarded up windows, or something's missing in the kitchen. You know, that these foreclosures, sometimes they take out the sink or the dishwasher or the stove, and they're literally holes in the wall. If that's the case, there are a couple ways to buy the house. The first way is cash, because, you know, it's your money if you want to buy it the way it is, and that's fine. The second way is to have the seller fix everything. Sometimes if it's a bank, they're not going to fix it. So their other option is to do a renovation loan. A renovation loan allows you to obtain the funds to fix the house after you close and get financing for it. So those things are important to mention as well. So I answered the question. I got off track. And is it a buyer's market? I'm not sure. There's low inventory. I think it depends on the area you're looking in. In some areas it may be, but I've seen multiple offers on houses, especially vacant houses that are selling, because they're easy to see, and people are still, they're still moving. They're still moving. So that's, yeah. Okay.
All right, and then there was also a question for me from this same viewer, and I just want to say a little bit as well to, is it a buyer's market? And I agree with Francesca. It's entirely where you're located, and we're just, from what I'm seeing from realtors that I work with, inventory is slowly starting to pick up. We're kind of seeing now some of the inventory start to come on the market that one would typically expect in that March, April spring market. Right now, the biggest benefit, though, I think to buyers is that the interest rates are so low. So that's really, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, I think you really have to, that's a very specific conversation. What are you looking for? Where are you looking for it? But right now, a very big advantage to buyers is the low interest rates, and we have been able to maintain those low interest rates through this entire process. Now, your next question, and I may need you to clarify a little bit what your question is here, is when a house is being rehabbed, does it make sense to begin attorney review? I think maybe what you're asking is if you're rehabilitating a home to resell, does it make sense to interview attorneys at that point? So I'm going to speak a little bit to that, but if I'm interpreting your question incorrectly, please feel free to type something else and then clarify. I actually work with a lot of investors who purchase distressed homes, or quite frankly, homes that just need a little lipstick and a little mascara, and they make those rehabilitation changes to the homes, and then they sell them again. And usually with those types of investors, I will represent them on the purchase and then on the subsequent sale. And that's after, quite frankly, a bit of a vetting process where I have, oh, you're the buyers and the home is still being rehabbed. Okay, so you're the buyer and someone else is rehabbing the home. Is it under contract? I mean, really, attorney review should be started from the day your contract for purchase is signed. If you have something, if you just have a deposit down or something like that, that could potentially be a little bit different. Sometimes in new construction, people will put a deposit down to reserve their unit, and that will give them the ability to do things like select countertops, things like that. Okay, so you did clarify, the home that's being rehabbed is under contract. Yes, you do want, the minute that contract was signed, you wanted your attorney on board and you want to start attorney review. Because even if you know you're going to have a very long closing escrow period between contract and closing, because of that rehabilitation work, you still want attorney review completed at the beginning, and your attorney should be addressing the expectations of that rehabilitation project in that period between contract and closing. I have had some clients I've worked with where there's pre-approvals. They're working with a wonderful lender like Francesca, who they know is going to get them on board quickly, and we've closed in as few as 30 days. I have worked with other clients where they know, the sellers know, hey, look, we know we have to pull an oil tank, and we know, you know, we have a leak in the roof, so we have to replace the roof before we can sell. We already know that. We're putting that out on the table. But we want to see if we can get a contract first before we put the money in to do that. Because some of these companies will say you can pay us when you close if you have a contract for sale, particularly the oil tank companies. So in that situation, even if you know, okay, well, this home is under contract, but this work needs to be done, we're not closing for 3 or 4 months, you still only have 3 days from the day that contract is signed to start attorney review. So if you are in that situation and you do have a contract and you have not started attorney review yet and you're still within that period, I highly recommend you can call me, but if you have an attorney you're working with, get your attorney on the line, start attorney review. If it's past those 3 days, still consult with your attorney, or like I said, you're welcome to call me. I'm happy to work with you. If you don't have an attorney, get in touch with someone and discuss maybe what there may still be remedies for you to revisit that attorney review process. Do we have any other questions for either myself or Marcia about title or Francesca about financing? I'll give everybody just a few minutes. And what I'll say is the 3 of us are, after the presentation today, we are going to send out some follow-up information, just a little bit more about the 3 of us, our comprehensive contact information, the services that we provide. So you guys will have that at your fingertips, and you will see as well when each one of us has been presenting, you'll see I have my email address next to my name, and Francesca and Marcia have their phone numbers. So please feel free to jot those down and reach out to any of us. Okay, so we have another question, which I actually think each one of us could probably say a couple words about. And the question is, what is the criteria to buy in another state, for example, in Georgia or Pennsylvania? And I'm going to answer this, I guess, from the perspective that either you're moving there to relocate, or perhaps you're thinking of buying a vacation home. If you're buying in another state from the perspective of legal, you do need an attorney that is licensed in that state to represent you in that transaction. In the example of Pennsylvania, I am licensed in Pennsylvania. I am unfortunately not licensed in Georgia, but I am licensed in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Vermont. Vermont, I typically do encourage my clients to use local Vermont attorneys for real estate transactions just because they do not use separate title companies in Vermont, which I think is insane, and I'm sure Marcia does too. So I do encourage my clients to use local counsel in Vermont, but New York, New Jersey, or Pennsylvania, I would be able to represent a client purchasing or selling out of state. Otherwise, it would be my pleasure to help you find a local attorney, but you do want local counsel to represent you on that transaction. There are some states where it's highly unusual to use attorneys to do a closing. For example, I have a lot of clients who have vacation homes, vacation condos in Florida. In Florida, it's absolutely unheard of. You're almost offending people if you want to use an attorney with your closing. So what I will frequently do for clients in that case, because I am not licensed in Florida, is I will basically, just enter into some type of arrangement with them where I will generally counsel them through the transaction. But it's clear that, if anything comes up as to Florida law, we do need to get Florida counsel involved. And I've done that with a few clients. So, and that really depends, on your continued contacts to the state of New Jersey, whether or not I can do that. But that is an arrangement I have made and I am comfortable making for some clients who are buying out of state in these states where attorneys are just simply not used for these transactions. And then I guess I'm going to repeat the question, and then I'll turn it over to Marcia next. What is the criteria to buy in another state? And just the examples were given, or Georgia or Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Gina. So we are licensed in, so we do title in Pennsylvania, and that title business comes out of our New Jersey office. We also have an office in Pennsylvania for closing, but the production is done primarily in New Jersey. But we have people who understand Pennsylvania. This is an interesting thing because it's really important to, and I think that's where First American really can help people, is the fact that we have offices in every state. So I can be the go-to person and I can hook you up with the proper people in that state to do title. Gina, if she didn't, she might have somebody, but because we have offices there, we're very well positioned to let you know who are the attorneys that are doing real estate, in that area. Because the other part too is New Jersey is very densely populated. We have a lot of record rooms that we're going and searching, but you go to some other states, okay, it's miles until the courthouse, until you can find, where the record room is. So it's very important when you get to other states that you're actually finding the right title company that's going to be close to where you're going to be buying. In New Jersey, I can search anywhere in New Jersey and it wouldn't matter. So because we have so many record rooms and we deal with the whole state. So I can definitely be an asset to you. And the other thing is that for closing, you can do a local close. So if it's a vacation home, you don't necessarily have to go, say, to Florida to go close it. We can make arrangements with a First American office down in Florida that can, and we can have the signing in my office in New Jersey, and we'll coordinate everything. So we look to me as a one-stop resource to be able to help you with the professionals that are in that state.
Okay, and then Francesca, I'll give you your opportunity to share a little bit about what you can do for clients out of state.
Okay, thank you. So I too am licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Let's say that you are buying a house in Pennsylvania as a second home. You would have to, you would need to be able to qualify financially to afford to pay for your current home and that home. Let's say you're just moving out of state, right? So, I mean, the first way is easy. You're qualifying. Can you afford to buy that second home or investment property? That's going to be kind of like the numbers that we currently have using your current employment. Let's say you're completely moving out of state and you're changing jobs. You need to already have employment. The easy way is if your company is national and you're just being transferred. But if you're actually changing jobs, we need a little more. We can't just say, oh yeah, I've been a loan officer in New Jersey and I'm moving to Georgia and I'm going to be a loan officer there. Well, we need some continuity. We need to see maybe a contract, paperwork, something more definitive, to see how you can afford to pay for the house and where your income is. So, but whichever state, we can all, if we aren't licensed in that state, we can help you find somebody that can help you achieve your goals.
And Francesca, before I switch off of you, this is another question I think that applies to all three of us. We have a viewer who is asking if we could just quickly provide a checklist of the steps to buying a house. So I think that each of us would probably have a checklist of the order in which you would do the basic outline. So I think Marcia and I would both tell the clients to go to you first, Francesca. So do you want to start with your checklist?
Yeah, so but the very first, checklist, have a conversation, let's run credit, let's look at your financial picture. Let's see if we need to do anything on your credit. Maybe there's something on there you didn't know about. That should be your very first step. Don't be afraid to let me run your credit. It really doesn't do that much to your score. People think it's going to hurt them. But you're allowed to shop for a home. You're allowed to run your credit without it hurting you. So don't be afraid of that. That would be the first thing. And to also have some of your financials in order. Your recent pay stubs or W-2s or 1099s for the past 2 years, tax returns. If you are self-employed, business tax returns are a must. You could have made $5 million on your business, but then wrote everything off and made $5,000 for the year. So it is very, very important for me to review your documents, your tax returns if you are self-employed. And all documents that we look at, we need in its entirety. And this is where when people say, oh, I've given them my documents so many times, the mortgage company keeps asking me for the same bank statement. Well, what they probably didn't do is explain to you that, yes, you gave me your bank statement. However, if it says page 1 of 8, we need all 8 pages, even if it's blank. We don't know it's blank. It could say left intentionally blank, but it's number 7. We still need it. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. And that's been the same way. I've been doing this for 21 years, and it's been the same requirement for the past 21 years. So yeah, so really that's kind of I think your very, very first step. Don't open new credit while you are in the process of buying a house. Like furniture. People love to go furniture shopping and buy furniture before they close. Well, what can happen? They ran their credit. The furniture store said, don't worry about it. It's deferred for 2 years. However, we still need to count that in your debt to income ratio. We need a statement. A statement's not going to be generated. It can hold up your closing. So don't ever buy furniture unless you're paying cash and you have enough. Don't ever do that. It happens. It happens all the time. And we actually have it's a little bit of a long checklist, but we can actually send that and circulate it. So you have that prepared with movers, what to do, what not to do during the progress, and that's it. So.
Okay, and I think I'm going to just add a little bit to that from my perspective. I think, Francesca, if we could circulate your checklist, that would be wonderful. And for anybody who could see me while Francesca was sharing, I was laughing a little bit because I personally just refinanced and I made the mistake of opening a new business credit card while my refinance was pending. because I was changing my bank. So so I know all too well how that could potentially go wrong. But unfortunately, I didn't use the business credit card. It was just I needed to open it because I was opening new accounts. So that's a very important point, and thank you for bringing that up. From my perspective, the first thing you should always do, work with Francesca, get yourself pre-qualified, get everything in place. By the time you get to me, you're working with your lender, you're working with your realtor, you may have 2 or 3 homes you're thinking about making an offer on. Like I said, I definitely think you should interview and select an attorney before you sign that contract. Then it's really, at that point, it's you sign the contract, you complete attorney review, you do all of your inspections, you know, do whatever your lender needs you to do whatever your title company needs you to do, and let's slide feet first into closing. Marcia, do you have anything to add as far as checklist?
I just want to add that, so what happens after the title comes in and everything gets in, we have that clear to close that I talked about. My escrow officer will be contacting, or Gina will be contacting the buyer, letting them know, you know, saying and setting up the closing. One of the things that needs to be mentioned, because it's really, really important, is the wiring of money. Okay. It's do not wire anything without calling Gina or the title company. Nobody is going to ask you to wire anything out without having a confirmation of the account number. And it's very important. So and I have to say that because people get caught in that a lot, and I'm sure you've read about wire fraud and stuff. It's a hacking thing. You don't want to, but it's really a public service now. Make sure that if you're going to wire any money, okay, that you call either the title company or the attorney or both, and make sure that so that's really at the end. That's very important at the end, and also we'll go over, when the closing starts, we'll go over all of the documents and everything with you so that you know what you're signing. And if you have any questions, you could ask then. And at that point, it's my escrow officer will let you know how much money you need to bring to closing, what the final, because we balance with the lender, and everything gets, you know, everyone's on the same page. So once you get there, we're able to guide you through of what you'll need steps before you need it. So we'll be good that way, but just be careful with the wires, please.
Definitely. And it's, you know, and especially now, we're seeing such a sharp, I mean, it was bad before, but we are seeing such a sharp increase in fraud attempts on bank accounts, that really, I would say that just goes for any transaction. Don't wire anything unless you're talking to the person who's asking you to wire on the phone. We have another question, which is for me. What are the best questions to ask attorneys when you interview them? And I really think that first and foremost, if you are calling an attorney to interview them, I think the best sign is you're actually speaking to the attorney. I have had clients who've called me and called a few other offices, and you know, at the end of the day, through this process, I get to know my clients very well. You know, and at the closing table, I'll say to them, hey, just out of curiosity, what made you pick me? Because, you know, we didn't know each other before this. What made you decide to work with me? And a lot of times it is, well, I called your office and I spoke to you. I didn't simply have someone telling me what the pricing was. I didn't speak to a secretary. You were available to me when I wanted to ask questions about hiring your firm. And I think that that's critical, because if the attorney is available to, if the attorney is not available to you when they're interested in talking to you about getting your business, I would be concerned about the availability of that attorney when they already have your business and you're a captive audience. And that's part of the reason I enjoy working with Francesca and Marcia, because I know that if my clients need something, they're going to pick up the phone the same way they could pick up the phone and get me anytime. They're going to pick up the phone and call either one of them and get them or the head person on their file who's going to be responsive and answer their questions. So aside from that, I mean, just it's getting a feel for who you're talking to. I think important questions are, ask them, you know, how do they handle the attorney review process? How do they have any types of, do they have any type of personal rules or regulations for how quickly they respond to correspondence that may be coming in? My personal rule and regulation in my entire practice is everybody gets a response in 24 hours. Even if the response is, I am busy, I got your question, here is when you will get my answer, okay? So if you have an attorney who doesn't have a rule like that, if you're comfortable with that, that's great, and some people are. But if you're not comfortable with that, particularly in such a heightenedly stressful transaction, you know, you're buying a home, you're buying a vacation home, you're buying an investment property, then it may be, you may want to speak with someone else, okay? You also might want to ask them, you know, how many of these transactions do you typically handle? Do you typically work in this area, in this geographic area? And how long have you been practicing real estate? And the reason why those questions are important is because there are many, many, many wonderful attorneys out there. But if they are not a real estate attorney and they do not specialize in real estate transactions, they can unintentionally do things that will harm your transaction and will harm your purchase. They could have the best intentions. I'm not trying to criticize other attorneys, but they just simply do not do this enough to know when to push hard, when to not push hard, and how to get things accomplished for you. So you really need someone who is in the real estate world and has done these transactions, is frequently doing these transactions, and is knowledgeable of the geographic area and you know, particular problems and things that might occur in that geographic area to help you. I have had, you know, I've worked on transactions where the attorney on the other side is the buyer or seller's cousin, who is, you know, a personal injury litigation attorney. All right. These are some of the most difficult transactions I've ever worked on. Now, this might be the person where I say, hey, if I ever get injured, I want them representing me because they're an amazing personal injury attorney. Okay. This is not to criticize their skills as an attorney. The best comparison is you would not hire a foot surgeon to do heart surgery. You would not hire a brain surgeon to do cosmetic surgery, okay? So that's really the best comparison. So I think the most important direct questions you can ask are just ask about their policies and procedures, about responsiveness, and just try to get an idea of what their experience is, not only with real estate transactions, but with real estate transactions in your geographic area. And do we have any final questions? I know we're almost at time. But if anybody has any final questions they want to try to pop in for any other one of us. Okay, I think that's everything. So I'll just say on behalf of all three of us, Marcia or Francesca, did you have anything final to add?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So I'll say thank you on behalf of all three of us. As I said, we will be circulating a follow-up email to all of you who attended, and we will include Francesca's checklist and all of our contact information. Oh, Kathy, okay, one final question and I can answer it quickly. So I'm gonna pull it in. If you're buying a home, should you be looking for a buyer's real estate agent? Is that such a thing? No, Kathy, most real estate agents, they handle buyers and sellers. So you're really just looking for someone who you're comfortable with, who you believe will really understand what you're looking for and be able to help you find what you're looking for. All real estate agents handle both buyer and seller transactions. The same with attorneys. I handle all buyer and seller transactions as well. Okay, so thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure to have this webinar for you today, and we hope to hear from you guys soon. Thanks, and have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.